Why do you believe that people don't get the sense of urgency about the climate crisis?
Mm, mm. Yeah, so this is again a vital question. And I think it's partly to do with the nature of the crisis, right? It's very, very slow burning. So you look at the COVID pandemic, the climate crisis is kind of very like that. It's just massively speeded up. I.e., COVID is a massively speeded up version of the climate crisis. So we could see it happening with COVID. Right? We could see it happening, as it were, in real time, and we could see what was happening in China after they started to acknowledge that it was happening. We could see what was happening in Italy. It's far harder to notice the same kind of stuff happening with climate because the timescales are so vastly slower, and human beings are not good at seeing stuff and acting on stuff that changes slowly. So the whole thing is really difficult to handle. And that's leaving aside the huge vested interest in it, which have meant, for example, as you know, that there's been this massive climate denialism, which has held us back for quite a long time. And of course, been very well funded by people who stand to benefit from the delays, from the prevarication. So there's a number of different ways in which there's been a lack of enough sense of urgency. And the urgency is incredibly real. Let me put it to you in this way. We've got this crucial climate COP this year that was delayed from last year, and that is the one that is supposed to kind of put the seal on moving forward from the Paris climate agreement. But even more important than that, what's going to start happening in a significant way this year, almost certainly, is the post-COVID reset, right? The vaccines are coming on stream. Okay, there's all sorts of problems, partly because we've got these new variants which have predictably emerged in countries which have got very high levels of infection. You know, yet another reason why it was crazy for countries like the UK and the US to not protect themselves better against COVID. You know, it's very striking that all the variants are coming from countries which have had lots of infection, you know, not obviously from countries like New Zealand and Taiwan and Vietnam and so on, which intelligently protected themselves against the virus. But look, the vaccines are coming. There's going to be quite a lot of sort of getting through the virus this year. We don't know how complete it's going to be, but it's very likely that there is going to be some kind of so-called economic recovery, some kind of attempt to return to business as usual, some kind of attempt to return to normal. And, you know, if we return to normal, then it's game over. That's it. Normal is what was killing us slowly with climate, and then quickly with COVID. Normal, if we return to it, also will produce more pandemics. It's very clear that we know that COVID came from animal cruelty, it came from ecosystem destruction, it was probabilified, the latest research is showing, by climate breakdown. And of course, it spread around the world by out of control air travel, just like that. You know, spread far faster than the Spanish flu of a century ago because it went at the speed of jet planes. If we return to normal, we're guaranteeing more future pandemics, including maybe much worse ones. So we need a transformed normal, and that has to start now. And it has to start now because now is the time when we're starting to reset from this COVID pandemic. And the institutions that are rebuilt now, and the infrastructure that is built now, and the money that is spent now, none of that can be done over again. What happens in the next 12 months is going to set the path for our species for the next 10 years. And what happens in the next 10 years, we know from the UN, from climate scientists, is going to determine the path for the entire century. So this time it really is a case that this is an absolutely crucial year that we are moving into. So the urgency couldn't be more stark. And what I talk about in Parents for a Future in the book is the way that there is now nothing more urgent than to think in a truly long-term way. There's nothing more urgent than to change our systems, to produce a transformed normal. in a way that we can guarantee a decent future for our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And that is the urgency of the situation. It is incredibly clear. If anyone's watching this thinking, oh, well, maybe we can start thinking about this once we've really got through the COVID pandemic, by then it would be too late.
Thanks so much for listening. If you haven't already and you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast and to our mailing list. And don't forget, my book, Brexit, The Establishment Civil War, is now available for pre-order on Amazon. You'll find the link in the description below. Until next time, thanks so much for listening.